The stars had watched humanity for 300 years, and the stars had judged them unworthy of joining the greater family of the cosmos in the vast emptiness of space, where light traveled for centuries and civilizations rose and fell like ocean waves. There existed a union of intelligent beings called the Galactic Concord, a coalition of 4,000 spacefaring species that had mastered the secrets of faster-than-light travel, quantum communication, and technologies that would seem like pure magic to the primitive eyes of Earth's inhabitants. The Concord had discovered Earth long before humans had even dreamed of reaching their own moon. They had watched with curious eyes as these strange, hairless creatures crawled out of caves and built fires, then cities, then machines that could split atoms and destroy entire populations in the blink of an eye. Fascinating, the elder races had whispered among themselves, but far too dangerous to approach, and so humanity was classified as a quarantined species observed from a distance, studied like bacteria under a microscope, and absolutely forbidden from learning about the greater galaxy that surrounded them. The Concord placed invisible satellites around Earth's solar system, monitoring every radio transmission, every rocket launch, every war and peace treaty that the humans produced. Ambassador the Sara of the Caliph race had spent her entire career studying humanity. She was old even by galactic standards, her silver skin wrinkled with the weight of 2,000 years. And she had grown fond of these violent little creatures in a way that her colleagues found disturbing. They are remarkable, she would argue at Concord meetings, her four eyes scanning the faces of diplomats who did not share her enthusiasm. Yes, they fight among themselves constantly, but look at what they create. Art, music, literature, science, they advance faster than any species we have ever recorded. But her words fell on deaf ears. The Concord was ancient, cautious, and deeply afraid of anything that might disturb the peace they had maintained for 50,000 years. Then came the Vethkai Dominion. The Vethkai were insects massive, intelligent creatures that resembled the mantises of Earth, but stood 12 feet tall and possessed minds as cold and calculating as the void between stars. They had joined the Concord 2,000 years ago, but they had never truly embraced its philosophy of patience and observation. The Vethkai believed in one simple truth: threats must be eliminated before they become dangerous. Supreme Hive Commander Vrexthul stood before the Dominion's War Council, his compound eyes reflecting the holographic image of a small blue planet spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Earth, he clicked in his native tongue, his mandibles snapping with barely contained aggression. The humans have developed nuclear fusion, quantum computing, and primitive artificial intelligence within the span of a single century. At this rate, they will achieve interstellar travel within 50 years. And what concern is that of ours? Asked one of the Elder Council members. Vrexthul turned his massive head, fixing the Elder with a stare that had made entire planets surrender. The concern is that they are violent beyond measure. They have fought 2 global wars within living memory. They have pointed nuclear weapons at each other and come within minutes of destroying themselves. Now imagine what they will do when they discover they are not alone in the universe. The council chamber fell silent. I propose, Vrexthul continued, that we launch a cleansing fleet. 3,000 warships armed with planet-cracking weapons to eliminate the human threat before it spreads beyond their solar system. The vote was unanimous, Ambassador. The Zara learned of the Vethkai's plan 3 days before the fleet was scheduled to depart. She rushed to the Concord's High Council, demanding an emergency session, pleading with the elder races to intervene. You cannot allow this, she begged, her silver hands trembling. The humans deserve a chance to prove themselves. High Chancellor Morvith, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell, regarded her with something that might have been pity. The Vethkai act outside our authority, he hummed, his voice resonating through the chamber. We cannot stop them without triggering a civil war. And even if we could, would we? The humans are dangerous, Ambassador. Perhaps the Vethkai are right to fear them. Desara felt her heart break. Then at least let me warn them, she whispered. Let me give them a chance to flee, to hide, to do something. The High Chancellor considered this for a long moment. Very well. Send your warning. But know this, it will change nothing. The Vethkai fleet is the most powerful military force in the galaxy. 3,000 warships against a species that has barely reached their own moon. There is no hope for humanity, and so Ambassador Desara composed her message. She poured 300 years of observation into a single transmission, explaining who the Vethkai were, what they intended, and why resistance was utterly futile. Flee if you can, she wrote, her hand shaking. Hide if you cannot. The Vethkai do not negotiate. They do not accept surrender. They will burn your world to ashes and scatter your species to the void. I am sorry. I am so very sorry. She sent the message through a quantum burst transmitter, knowing it would reach Earth in seconds despite the vast distance. Then she waited. On Earth, the message arrived at 3:47 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. It was received simultaneously by every major government, every military installation, and every intelligence agency on the planet. Within minutes, the leaders of every nation were on emergency calls, their faces pale with shock and disbelief. For the first time in human history, every war paused. Every political argument stopped. Every grudge and hatred was set aside as humanity faced the truth of their situation. They were not alone in the universe, and something was coming to kill them all. President Catherine Wells of the United States sat in the Situation Room, surrounded by generals and advisors who looked as terrified as she felt. The alien message played on a loop, its words burning into her mind. What are options? She asked, her voice steady despite the fear that gripped her heart. General Marcus Stone, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, looked at her with eyes that had seen 2 wars and countless horrors. Honestly, Madam President, based on this message, we have none. They have 3,000 warships. We have never even left our solar system. This is not a fight we can win. President Wells stood and walked to the window, looking up at the stars that suddenly seemed so much more threatening than before. Then we make them earn it, she said quietly. Every inch, every moment, every single life, we make them pay for in blood. If humanity dies tonight, we die fighting. She turned back to her advisors, and for the first time since receiving the message, she smiled, a cold, fierce expression that made even the hardened generals uncomfortable. Get me every world leader on a secure channel. It is time for humanity to have a conversation about survival, and across the globe. In bunkers and palaces, in military bases and government buildings, humanity began to do what it had always done best. It prepared for war. Supreme Commander Elena Vasquez had not slept in 72 hours, but her eyes were sharp and her mind was clearer than it had ever been in her 53 years of life. She stood in the heart of the United Nations Emergency Command Center, a massive underground facility that had been built in secret beneath the Swiss Alps. Around her, the greatest military minds from every nation on Earth worked side by side, American generals alongside Russian commanders, Chinese strategists sharing tables with European admirals, old enemies united by a threat that made their ancient conflicts seem like children's games. The quantum burst transmitter is ready, Commander, announced Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the Japanese physicist who had spent her entire career studying theoretical alien communication. Her hands trembled as she adjusted the controls. Knowing that what they were about to do would change everything, Elena nodded and stepped forward to the microphone. Behind her, a massive screen displayed the incoming trajectory of the Vethkai fleet. 3,000 red dots, moving steadily toward a small blue marble that represented everything humanity had ever known or loved. "Are you sure about this?" asked General Pavel Volkov of Russia, his weathered face creased with concern. "Once we send this message, there is no taking it back. We will be announcing ourselves to the entire galaxy." Elena turned to face him, and something in her expression made the old soldier take a step backward. "They already know we are here, General. They are coming to kill us? The only question now is whether we die in silence or whether we make sure every civilization in this galaxy knows what humanity is made of." She turned back to the microphone and took a deep breath. The message she was about to send had been crafted by linguists, psychologists, historians, and military strategists from every corner of the Earth. It had been translated into mathematics and encoded into frequencies that would reach every receiver in the known universe. It was not a plea for help or a desperate cry for mercy. It was a declaration: begin transmission. Elena commanded Dr. Tanaka pressed a button, and a soft hum filled the chamber as the most powerful communication device ever built by human hands came to life. Elena leaned into the microphone and began to speak to the Vethkai, Dominion, and all civilizations who observe this. Is Supreme Commander Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Defense Force. I speak for 8 billion human beings who have been condemned to death by your judgment. She paused, letting her words travel across the stars. You have decided that we are a threat. You have looked at our history of violence and concluded that we are too dangerous to exist. You believe you understand war, conquest, and extinction. Her voice grew harder, colder. You do not. We are humanity. We have spent our entire existence fighting the most dangerous enemy in the universe, ourselves. Every weapon you carry, we have imagined in our darkest nightmares. Every strategy you deploy, we have studied in our endless wars. Every cruelty you threaten, we have already survived and overcome. She thought of the trenches of the First World War, where young men had drowned in mud and poison gas, but refused to retreat. She thought of the cities that had burned under nuclear fire, yet rose again from the ashes. She thought of every plague, every famine, every genocide that humanity had endured and somehow survived. You approach a species that turned atomic fire upon its own cities and did not break. A species that crawled through trenches filled with disease and death and kept fighting. A species that has faced extinction a dozen times throughout its history and chose to survive. Your fleet numbers 3,000 ships. You believe this is overwhelming force, but you do not understand what you are facing. We are the children of Earth. We learn to walk by falling down. We learn to live by surviving death. We learn to fight by fighting each other with a brutality that would make your soldiers weep. And now you come to our home, to our only world, to threaten our children and our future? Elena smiled, and it was not a kind expression. You have made a terrible mistake. This is not a warning. It is a promise. When your fleet enters our solar system, you will find a species that does not know how to surrender. You will find warriors who consider death an acceptable price for victory. You will find scientists who can turn your own technology against you within days of capturing it. You will find humanity. So come then. Bring your 3,000 ships. Bring your planet-cracking weapons. Bring every soldier in your dominion. We will be waiting. And when the last of your fleet burns in the darkness of our sky, know this, we will remember. We will remember every species that watched us struggle and did nothing. We will remember every civilization that judged us unworthy. And we will remember the Vethkai, who thought they could extinguish us like a candle in the wind. You just signed your annihilation. This is Earth's last message to the galaxy. Not a cry for help. Not a plea for mercy, but a simple statement of fact. We are coming for you. Humanity out. Elena stepped back from the microphone as Dr. Tanaka ended the transmission. The chamber was silent, every person frozen in place as the weight of what they had just done settled over them like a heavy blanket. Then, slowly, General Volkov began to clap. One by one, the others joined him, until the underground bunker echoed with applause and cheers from soldiers who had been enemies just days before Ambassador the Tsar. Watching from a hidden observation satellite thousands of light years away, felt tears streaming down her silver face. She had expected fear, panic, desperate pleas for salvation. She had not expected defiance. By the ancient stars, she whispered to herself, what have the Vethkai awakened? Across the galaxy, the Concord's monitoring stations recorded the transmission and forwarded it to their governments. Diplomats and generals, scientists and philosophers, all of them listened to the words of this tiny species from a tiny planet. And all of them felt something they had not experienced in millennia: uncertainty. The Vethkai fleet received the message 12 hours before they were scheduled to enter Earth's solar system. Supreme Commander Vrexthal listened to it 3 times, his compound eyes narrowing with each repetition. Primitive bravado. He clicked dismissively. The desperate words of a species facing extinction. They hope to frighten us with speeches. Should we respond, Commander? Asked his second-in-command, Vrexthal made a sound that passed for laughter among his kind. No. Let them have their words. When their cities burn and their children scream, they will learn that words mean nothing against the might of the Dominion. He turned to face the viewport, where distant stars sparkled like cold diamonds against the infinite darkness. Increase speed. I want to reach Earth 12 hours ahead of schedule. Let us show these humans what true annihilation looks like. The 3,000 ships of the cleansing fleet accelerated toward Sol, their weapons charging, their crews eager for the easy victory they had been promised. They did not know that on Earth, in secret bases and hidden facilities around the globe, humanity was doing what it did best, preparing a welcome that the galaxy would never forget. The Vethkai fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. And for a brief moment, Supreme Commander Vrexthal allowed himself a feeling of satisfaction. Neptune hung in the distance like a pale blue jewel. And beyond it lay their target, the small, fragile world that these primitive creatures called home. Begin standard cleansing protocol, he commanded, his mandibles clicking with anticipation. All ships advance in formation. I want sensor sweeps of every asteroid and moon. We will leave nothing to chance. His officers obeyed without question. They had performed this operation hundreds of times on hundreds of worlds. The pattern was always the same: overwhelm the enemy with superior numbers, destroy their military installations, then systematically eliminate the population until nothing remained but dust and silence. But as the fleet passed the orbit of Mars, something strange appeared on their sensors. Commander, announced the tactical officer, his voice uncertain, we are detecting energy signatures from the red planet. Vrexthal turned his massive head. What kind of signatures? Unknown. They appear to be. The officer never finished his sentence. From the dust storms of Mars erupted a fleet that should not have existed. Hundreds of human warships, their hulls painted black as the void itself, armed with weapons that the Vethkai had never seen before. They had been hiding in the planet's shadow, their engines cold, waiting for this exact moment. All ships, open fire. Vrexthal screamed the Battle of Sol had begun. The first wave of Vethkai missiles tore through space toward the human fleet, and 3 cruisers vanished in blooms of white-hot fire. 12,000 human soldiers died in the span of 9 seconds. Their ships reduced to expanding clouds of debris and frozen bodies. But the humans did not retreat. This is Admiral Chen Wei of the United Earth Navy, crackled a voice across all frequencies. All vessels, execute pattern Delta. Make them pay for every inch. The human ships scattered like a swarm of angry hornets, their smaller size making them difficult targets for the massive Vethkai weapons. They dove between enemy vessels, firing railguns that punched through armor like paper, launching nuclear-tipped missiles that overwhelmed shield generators through sheer numbers. Rexthal watched in disbelief as one of his carriers exploded. A human pilot had flown directly into its hangar bay and detonated his ships. Antimatter core at point-blank range, a suicide attack that killed one human to destroy a vessel carrying 10,000 Vethkai soldiers. They are insane, whispered his second-in-command. No. Rexthal replied, his voice quiet. They are desperate. And desperate creatures are dangerous. The battle raged for hours. The Vethkai had superior firepower, superior numbers, superior technology, but the humans fought with a fury that defied all logic. They accepted losses that would have broken any other species, trading ship for ship, life for life, refusing to yield a single kilometer without extracting a terrible price on Earth. Commander Vasquez watched the battle through a holographic display, her face a mask of controlled emotion. Every red dot that vanished from the screen represented thousands of human lives. Sons and daughters, mothers and fathers, friends and lovers who would never come home. Orbital defense platforms are ready, reported General Stone. Ground-based laser batteries charged and waiting. How many ships have we lost? Vasquez asked. 243. Approximately 60% of our fleet. She closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of those numbers pressing down on her shoulders. Then she opened them again, her gaze hard as diamond. And the Vethkai? We have confirmed kills on 812 vessels. Another 300 show significant damage. A ghost of a smile crossed her lips. The ratio was brutal. 3 human ships lost for every Vethkai vessel destroyed. But they were hurting the enemy. They were making them bleed. Order the remaining fleet to fall back to Earth orbit. Let them chase us. Let them think they are winning. The trap had been set long before the Vethkai arrived. Earth scientists had worked day and night for 72 hours, using every piece of information from Ambassador, the Tsar's warning to prepare defenses that the enemy would not expect, hidden beneath the surface of the moon. A weapon weighted a massive railgun capable of accelerating projectiles to nearly the speed of light. It had been built in secret over decades, disguised as a mining operation. Its true purpose known only to a handful of people. Lunar batteries standing by. Came the report. Do not fire until they pass the moon, Vasquez ordered. I want them committed. I want them to believe victory is within their grasp. The Vethkai fleet, reduced but still overwhelming, pursued the retreating human vessels toward Earth. Rex, though, could taste victory. The blue planet filled his viewport, beautiful and fragile, and he imagined it burning under his weapons. We have lost more ships than anticipated, his second-in-command admitted, but the humans are finished. They cannot stop us now. Rex still nodded. The humans had fought well better than any species the Dominion had ever faced, but courage could not overcome mathematics. They were simply too outnumbered, too outgunned. Prepare the planet crackers, he ordered. I want to end this quickly. This species has proven too dangerous to toy with. The massive weapons began to charge. Their energy core is glowing with deadly light, and then the moon fired a projectile the size of a building streaked across space at impossible speed, slamming into the heart of the Vethkai formation. 3 carriers vanished in an instant, torn apart by kinetic energy that rivaled a small sun. The shock wave damaged dozens of surrounding vessels, sending them spinning out of control. What was that? Rexthal screamed. Before anyone could answer, the Earth itself seemed to come alive. Orbital defense platforms opened fire, filling the space around the planet with a curtain of laser light and missile fire. Ground-based batteries on every continent unleashed their fury, their beams reaching up through the atmosphere to tear into the enemy fleet. Vethkai found themselves caught between the surviving human fleet behind them, and the deadly gauntlet of Earth's defenses before them. Ships exploded left and right, and for the first time in his long career, Rexdale felt something he did not recognize. It was fear. A human voice crackled across the communication channels. Cold and triumphant. "Welcome to Earth. We have been waiting for you." The battle continued for 3 more days. The Vethkai fought with the discipline and skill that had conquered 200 worlds. But the humans fought with something else, a primal, savage determination that turned every engagement into a bloodbath. Human soldiers in powered armor boarded enemy vessels, fighting through corridors never designed for such close combat. They used knives when their guns ran empty, used fists when their knives broke, used their dying breaths to trigger grenades that took enemy soldiers with them into death. By the end of the 3rd day, the cleansing fleet had been reduced to less than half its original strength. Wreckage filled the space around Earth like a graveyard of broken dreams. And the surviving Vethkai ships were battered, burned, and running low on ammunition. Rexel stared at the tactical display, unable to comprehend what he was seeing. This was not possible. This was not how cleansing operations worked. Inferior species were supposed to die, not fight back with such terrible effectiveness. "Send a message to the Dominion," he ordered, his voice hollow. "Request immediate reinforcements. Tell them," he paused, searching for words. "Tell them we have underestimated the humans. Tell them this is no longer a cleansing. This is a war." The message was sent, and somewhere in the darkness of space, the observers of the Galactic Concord recorded everything, every death, every explosion, every moment of humanity's desperate, glorious, impossible stand. Ambassador the Zara watched with tears in her ancient eyes. "By all the stars," she whispered, "they might actually survive." Supreme Commander Rexthal stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display with eyes that had grown dull with exhaustion and something far worse, the slow, creeping realization that he had made a terrible mistake. The humans were no longer defending, they were hunting over the past 2 days. The surviving human forces had begun to change their tactics. Instead of desperate defensive actions, they launched coordinated strikes against specific targets. Instead of fighting to survive, they fought to destroy. Instead of running, they chased, and somehow, impossibly, their ships had grown stronger. "Commander," his tactical officer reported, voice trembling, "we have analyzed the weapons fire from the human vessels. They are using shield harmonics identical to our own." Rexthal turned slowly, his compound eyes narrowing. "That is impossible. They have had no access to our technology. They captured 3 of our cruisers during yesterday's engagement." Apparently, the officer paused, as if struggling to believe his own words. "They reverse-engineered our shield systems overnight." Silence fell across the bridge, overnight. The humans had done in hours what had taken Vethkai scientists decades to develop. They had torn apart alien technology they had never seen before, understood it, and improved it all while fighting a war for their survival. "They are using our shields with their weapons," the officer continued. "The combination is proving more effective than either system alone." Rex still said nothing. What was there to say? Everything they knew about primitive species, about cleansing operations, about the natural order of galactic conquest, all of it was crumbling before his eyes. A new voice crackled across the communication channel. It was a human voice, and it spoke in the Vethkai language with an accent that was rough but understandable. "Attention Vethkai Fleet. This is Admiral Chunwei of the United Earth Navy. Your reinforcements are not coming." Rexthel's blood ran cold. "We intercepted your transmission to the Dominion. We know you have asked for help. But you should know that we have also sent a message to the Galactic Concord, to every species watching this battle." A pause. "We showed them what we are capable of. We showed them the wreckage of your fleet. And we asked them a simple question: do you really want to be next? The Concorde has responded. They have declared this system a quarantine zone. No ships may enter or leave without their permission. Your reinforcements have been turned back. You are alone. The channel went dead. Rexthal stood frozen as the truth of his situation became clear. He had brought 3,000 ships to destroy a primitive species, and now less than 1,000 remained. His fleet was trapped, cut off from support, surrounded by an enemy that grew stronger with every passing hour. And then the humans showed him what true psychological warfare looked like on every frequency, on every screen, on every communication device in the Vethkai fleet. A new broadcast began. It showed images of captured Vethkai soldiers being treated in human medical facilities, not tortured, not killed, but healed and fed and treated with dignity. Then it showed something else. Human engineers dismantling Vethkai technology with systematic efficiency. Their faces calm and focused as they learned the secrets of machines that had taken millennia to develop. Human pilots flying captured Vethkai fighters, mastering control systems that were never designed for human hands. Human soldiers training with alien weapons, their movements growing more confident with each passing hour. The message was clear. Every ship the Vethkai lost, every piece of technology they left behind, every soldier they sacrificed, all of it made humanity stronger. They are learning, whispered Rexthal as second in command. They are learning everything. Then came the final part of the broadcast. Commander Elena Vasquez appeared on screen, her face illuminated by the glow of battle displays. She was older than she had been a week ago, her eyes carrying the weight of countless deaths. But her voice was steady and strong. To Supreme Commander Rexthal of the Vethkai Dominion, she began, "You came to our world to commit genocide. You believed we were weak. You believed we would die easily. You were wrong. In 5 days, your fleet has been reduced by more than half. Your technology is now in our hands. Your soldiers surrender faster each day. And you have nowhere to run. But I offer you a choice. Surrender now, and your surviving soldiers will be returned to the Dominion. We have no desire for slaves or prisoners. We want only to be left alone. Refuse, and we will destroy every last one of you. We will hunt your ships through the void. We will board your vessels and kill your crews. We will leave nothing but wreckage and corpses to float through space as a warning to anyone else who thinks humanity is easy prey." Her eyes hardened. "You have 12 hours to decide. After that, the offer expires, and so do you." The screen went dark. Rexthal stood in silence for a long moment. Around him, his officers waited for orders, their fear so strong he could smell it in the recycled air of the bridge. "Commander," his second finally spoke, "perhaps we should consider—" "Consider what?" Rexthal snapped. "Surrendering to prey? Admitting that the mighty Vethkai Dominion was defeated by a species that cannot even travel between stars." He turned to face the viewport, where Earth hung in the darkness, so small, so blue, so deceptively fragile. "No, we will not surrender. We will regroup. We will repair our ships, and we will finish what we started. But Commander, our losses are acceptable. We still outnumber them. We still have superior firepower. This is merely a setback." His words echoed through the bridge. But no one believed them, not even Rexthal himself. The next 12 hours were the longest of his life. He watched as human ships patrolled the battlefield like sharks circling wounded prey. He watched as his own crews grew more afraid with each passing moment. He watched as the deadline approached, and his officers looked at him with eyes that begged for a decision he refused to make. When the 12 hours ended, the humans did not wait. The attack came from everywhere at once. The human flagship Vengeance led the charge, its hull painted with the names of every ship and crew lost in the battle. Behind it came a fleet that seemed to have grown overnight, captured Vethkai vessels now flying human colors, their weapons modified, their crews determined. They did not fight like soldiers. They fought like angels of death, like demons risen from nightmare, like a species that had finally found something worthy of its full attention. Rex, though, watched his fleet die. Ships exploded around him like fireworks, each one representing thousands of soldiers he had led to their deaths. Escape pods were targeted and destroyed. Damaged vessels were boarded and captured. And through it all, the humans pressed forward with relentless, terrifying efficiency when the Vengeance pierced the hull of his flagship and Commander Vasquez herself led the boarding party onto his bridge. Rexdale finally understood what the Concorde's warnings had meant. Humans did not fight like other species. They did not calculate acceptable losses or plan strategic withdrawals. They fought like something had broken inside them long ago, like creatures who had stared into the void of extinction so many times that they no longer feared it. They fought like survivors. "You wanted to exterminate us," Vasquez said, her weapon trained on his head, her voice calm despite the blood and fire around her. "You wanted to burn our world and scatter our children to the void." She smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing Rexthal had ever seen. "Thank you." He blinked in confusion. "Thank you for uniting us. Thank you for showing us that the galaxy is dangerous. Thank you for giving humanity a common enemy." She gestured around at the burning bridge, at the bodies of his officers, at the ruins of his command. "Without you, we might have destroyed ourselves in another century or two. But you gave us something to fight together against. You made us stronger." She lowered her weapon. "Now go. Tell your Dominion what happened here. Tell every species that will listen. Tell them that humanity is awake. Tell them that we remember. And tell them that if anyone else wants to try what you tried," her eyes burned with cold fire, "we will be waiting." 5 years had passed since the Battle of Sol, and the galaxy had not forgotten. In council chambers and military academies across 4,000 worlds, beings of every shape and size studied the recordings of that impossible conflict. They watched a primitive species with no interstellar capability defeat the mightiest fleet the Vethkai Dominion had ever assembled. They analyzed the tactics, the technology, the raw determination that had turned certain extinction into total victory, and they were afraid. The Galactic Concorde convened an emergency assembly on the crystalline halls of Station Paramount, a structure so ancient that no one remembered who had built it. Representatives from every spacefaring civilization gathered in the massive chamber, their translator devices humming with 1,000 languages. Their eyes fixed on the podium at the center of the room today. For the first time in history, humanity would address. The galaxy ambassador of the Sara stood near the front of the assembly, her silver skin shimmering with nervous energy. She had spent the past 5 years watching humanity transform itself from a quarantined species barely capable of reaching their own moon to a civilization that had begun colonizing Mars, mining asteroids, and building warships that incorporated technology from a dozen different alien sources. They learned so fast, she had written in her reports. "It frightens me. It awes me. I am not sure which emotion is stronger." The chamber fell silent as a small vessel appeared through the massive windows. It was the Remember Earth, the first interstellar ship ever built by human hands. Its design was elegant and efficient, a hybrid of human engineering and captured Vethkai technology, its hull bearing the names of every soldier who had died defending their homeworld. The ship docked, and a few minutes later, the doors to the assembly chamber opened. Commander Elena Vasquez walked in alone. She had aged in the 5 years since the battle. Gray streaked her dark hair, and lines of exhaustion and grief marked her face. She walked with a slight limp, a souvenir from the boarding action that had captured Rexdale's flagship and her uniform bore no medals or decorations. Only a simple patch showing Earth as seen from space. But her eyes were what made the assembled diplomats shift uncomfortably in their seats. Those were not the eyes of a soldier or a politician. Those were the eyes of a survivor, someone who had looked death in the face and refused to blink. She stepped up to the podium and surveyed the chamber slowly, her gaze moving from species to species, from face to face. When she spoke, her voice was calm and measured, translated instantly into thousands of languages. Distinguished representatives of the Galactic Concord. My name is Elena Vasquez. I speak for the 8 billion human beings of Earth, and I bring you greetings from a species you tried very hard to ignore. A murmur rippled through the crowd. For 300 years, you watched us. You classified us as dangerous, violent, unworthy of contact. You debated among yourselves whether we were too primitive to matter or too threatening to survive. And when the Vethkai came to exterminate us, you did nothing. The murmur grew louder. Uncomfortable. Ambassador Thesara sent us a warning, and for that we are grateful. But the rest of you, the mighty Galactic Concord, you watched as 3,000 warships advanced to burn our world, and you did nothing but observe. She let the silence stretch. We do not blame you. Truly, we do not. In your position, faced with a species as chaotic and violent as humanity, perhaps we would have made the same choice. But you should understand something about us. She leaned forward, her eyes intense. We remember who helped us. Ambassador Thesara will always have a friend in humanity. Her people will always find safe harbor on Earth. This is our promise, and humans do not break their promises. Thesara felt tears streaming down her silver cheeks. But we also remember who stood aside. We remember the species that watched our children scream and did nothing. We remember the civilizations that calculated our extinction as an acceptable loss. We do not seek revenge. We do not desire conquest. Humanity has had enough of war for many generations, but we want you to know we remember. She straightened, her voice taking on a more formal tone. The Vethkai Dominion has surrendered unconditionally. Their fleet is destroyed, their military crippled, their government in chaos. We have chosen not to pursue them to their homeworld, not to inflict upon them what they wish to inflict upon us. This is the difference between us. The Vethkai believed that the only way to deal with a threat was to destroy it utterly. They believed that mercy was weakness and compassion was foolishness. We believe otherwise. We believe that true strength lies not in the power to destroy, but in the wisdom to choose when destruction is necessary. We believe that the measure of a civilization is not how effectively it kills, but how wisely it builds. And so we offer the galaxy something it has never seen before. She pressed a button on the podium, and the holographic image appeared above her head Earth, spinning slowly. Beautiful and blue and impossibly small against the vastness of space. This is our world. We nearly lost it. 40% of our fleet was destroyed in the battle. Millions of our people died. 2 of our orbital stations were reduced to rubble. The cost of our survival was measured in blood and grief beyond calculation. But we survived. And now we wish to take our place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as partners. Not as threats, but as allies. We bring with us knowledge that no other species possesses. The knowledge of how to survive against impossible odds. How to unite in the face of extinction. How to fight with everything you have and refuse to surrender even when all hope seems lost. We also bring something else. We bring our art, our music, our stories. We bring our curiosity and our creativity. We bring the best parts of ourselves along with the worst. We are not perfect. We know this better than anyone. We have committed terrible acts against our own kind. We have nearly destroyed ourselves more times than we can count. But we are also capable of great things. We are capable of love and sacrifice and courage. We are capable of looking at the stars and dreaming of worlds we have never seen. And we are capable of mercy. She looked directly at the camera that was broadcasting her words to every world in the galaxy. So here is Earth's message to the Galactic Concord. Not a threat, not a demand, but an offer. Accept us as equals, and you will find no better friends in the universe. Humanity is loyal to those who stand by us, generous to those who show us kindness, and always ready to defend those who cannot defend themselves. But if anyone else wishes to try what the Vethkai tried, if anyone else looks at our small blue world and sees easy, pray know this. Her voice dropped to barely more than a whisper, but it carried to every corner of the chamber. We will not run. We will not hide. We will not surrender. We will fight with every weapon we possess, with every strategy we can devise, with every breath in our bodies, and we will win. Not because we are the strongest, or the smartest, or the most advanced, but because we are human, and humans do not know how to give up. Today, we choose mercy. Today, we choose partnership. Today, we offer our hand in friendship to any civilization willing to take it. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was soft with something that might have been hope. Bray, we always make this choice. The chamber was absolutely silent then. Slowly, Ambassador Thesara began to applaud. One by one, others joined her. Not all, not even most, but enough. Enough to let Lana know that humanity would not face the stars alone later that day. The Galactic Concord voted to accept humanity as a full member species. The vote was not close. It was nearly unanimous, not out of welcome, not out of admiration, but out of respect, tinged with fear. For a species that had looked extinction in the eye and somehow found the strength to smile as Elena Vasquez boarded the Remember Earth for the journey back to Sol. She paused at the viewport and looked out at the stars, millions of them, billions of them. Each one a sun that might harbor worlds and civilizations and wonders beyond imagination. We made it, she whispered to herself. To the ghosts of the fallen, to the billions of humans waiting on Earth for news of their future. We actually made it. Behind her, the galaxy waited, vast and dangerous and full of species who now looked at that small blue planet with new eyes. Humanity had announced itself to the universe, and the universe would never be the same on Earth. In cities and villages around the world, people looked up at the night sky and saw something different from what their ancestors had seen. The stars were no longer distant dreams or cold points of light. They were destinations. They were possibilities. They were the future, and somewhere in the endless dark between worlds, a species that had spent its entire existence learning to survive began its next great lesson. Learning to lead,